Welcome to this edition of the Native News Update. I'm your host for today's program, Paul DeMain. Many of the stories viewed here can be found at our website at IndianCountryNews.com. Here's the news from the day from the Associated Press and other Native American news sources. The Buffalo News is reporting that an audit done for the Seneca Gaming Corporation on alleged improprieties into the sale of land for the corporation's $25.5 million golf course in Lewiston, New York, also takes a hard look at a controversial program that has made millionaires of a few Seneca. The program, called the Tribal Employment Rights Ordinance, or TERO, was established to partner Seneca businesses with outside contractors so Senecas could one day start companies for themselves. Instead, the Buffalo News reports that TERO has allowed a select few, many with ties to Seneca President Barry E. Snyder Sr., who until recently was removed as chair of the Seneca Gaming, to make millions of dollars off of casino contracts. The audit by Manuel Daniels, Berkey International LLC of Alexandria, Virginia, suggested that while TERO has good intentions, it raised the price of goods and services. The news previously reported TERO was set up to help companies which are Seneca-owned or at least 51% controlled by the Seneca to bid on casino projects, but instead has turned into a way for a few Seneca, acting as fronts for non-native companies, to make millions of dollars. A Native American youth theater group performs this Friday in Minneapolis, Minnesota to mark a national day focused on HIV and AIDS amongst Native Americans. The performance by the Ogichidaw players from the Indigenous Peoples Task Force takes place at the Minneapolis American Indian Center. American Indians have the third highest rate of HIV and AIDS among all ethnic groups in Minnesota. State Minority Health Office Director Mitchell Davis Jr. is urging frequent HIV testing and safe sex practices and warning against sharing needles used by drug use or for body art. Digging deep into the National Archives, Stephen Heap and Chip Ritchie of Rich Heap Films has uncovered 3 historic films that depict Native American life in the early 1990s. The romance, not the 1990s, the 1900s. The Romance of a Vanishing Race features tribal chiefs who participated in the last great Indian council and several who fought at the Battle of the Little Bighorn. Originally produced on 35mm film, this priceless footage recently rediscovered within the lost treasures of the National Archives has been remastered to include an original music score by Jay Adkins with a new voiceover narration by Sophia Pate. The Romance of the Vanishing Race is a view of life in the Southwest featuring Navajo, Pueblo, Crow, and Hopi tribes, was originally released in 1916. Rodman Wanmaker, Expedition of Citizenship to the North American Indian and Carrying the Flag and a Message of Hope to a Vanishing Race by Dr. Joseph Dixon, explains the symbolism of the flag and dedication ceremonies to numerous tribes who look on with muted interest. That was originally released in 1913. The third program, Winter Farm Life on a Crow Reservation, features World War I French hero General Ferdinand Foch, shows reservation life including butchering a cow, raising a teepee, and ceremonies welcoming him, and that was released in 1921, all in a new compilation that's been recently re-released. Just in case you need to mark your calendar, the 6th Annual Indigenous Film and Arts Festival is scheduled for October 13th through the 18th, 2009, and this year's theme is Telling Our Own Stories. The film festival director, Jeannie M. Rubin of the International Institute for Indigenous Resource Management, says they just wanted to give the heads up so people can mark their dates on the calendar early, and that they're looking forward to another year of great films, enthusiastic audiences, supportive sponsors, and an ever-growing family of community partners. You can find more information at www.iiirm.org. Water's own voice, a bridge between today's science and indigenous wisdom, is the topic of a keynote address at the Braiding Through Water, Weaving Tradition in Western Science and Knowledge Conference to be held in Flagstaff, Arizona this April 6th through the 7th. Jennifer Green, director of the Water Research Institute of Blue Hill and vice president of the Constructed Wetlands Group, will be the keynote speaker. The conference is sponsored by the Black Mesa Trust. Ms. Green has lectured and taught widely in the United States and around the world on water and has continuing with her current research at WRI's Drop Pitcher Method Laboratory at Blue Hill, Maine, the only such laboratory in the United States on water phenomena. During the conference, 18 internationally acclaimed scientists, teachers, and artists will gather with Hopi traditional leaders and teachers to explore what new paradigms of understanding arise from the braiding of Western and traditional Hopi sciences. The dialogue and discussions will be led by Leroy Littlebear, a former director of Native Studies at Harvard University. You can get more details at www.waterbraidingconference.com. Mohawk activist Danny Beaton is asking for your immediate support for a Canadian community to get the Ontario government to reverse its decision granting permission to drain water from an aquifer called Site 41 in Simcoe County, Ontario for a landfill. According to Beaton, there is widespread resistance to the proposed dump site within the communities around the aquifer. The citizens and First Nations of Simcoe County are demanding that the county explore other options to manage waste by implementing waste reduction strategies and upgrading their 50 existing landfills. Several groups, including Environment Canada, agree that Canada is on the brink of a freshwater crisis and that Native people have not been consulted about the development within the territories of Georgian Bay of the Ojibwe, Chippewa, Métis, Wyandot, and Mohawk nations. You can find and sign that petition at the site www.thepetitionsite.com, and the topic is One Stop Dump Site. Help Danny Beaton out in that community by going to that site today. It's celebrated in song, dissected in scientific journals, and detailed on government websites. It's the subject of international conferences, amateur theater performances, and gatherings of Northwest tribal leaders. Ask Bert Weber of the Northwest and he'll say we dip our toes in it, admire it, and they sail across it every day. But how many people know where the Salish Sea is? Likely as not, nobody knows what you're talking about, said Weber, a retired Western Washington University marine biologist. Now he's trying to change that with a campaign to have Washington and British Columbia officially adopt the name Salish Sea for the vast, fertile, and imperiled expanse of salt water we share with Canada. Pieces of it already have well-worn names: Puget Sound, the Strait of Juan de Fuca, and the Strait of Georgia. Weber stresses that he's not trying to replace those names. Instead, he wants to create another name unifying the places and acknowledging many of the native tribes here already, collectively known as the Coastal Salish. Weber hopes a common name will help energize efforts to restore the damaged waters. And that is the latest roundup of news from Indian Country here on the Native News Update. We want to thank our underwriters for helping us with this broadcast today and for you for joining us. Miigwech.